Okay, welcome to what I hope is a relatively successful playthrough of Skyrim, the original, not the special edition, mainly because I waited too long to redeem my free download. So, yeah. This is going to be a roleplay. I'm going to try to stay within a set character that I'm still in the process of developing. This video I will briefly introduce who she is kind of as a person, where she's coming from, a lot of her backstory, well, generally her backstory. She'll go into her specific backstory as I continue. This is not going to be a character build for a specific skill set. I'm not going to be doing specific quests. I'm not going to be doing things to completion necessarily. This is just going to be my character, this story coming through Skyrim and the adventures and the events that occur during the Civil War quest, the Civil War in Skyrim, and the appearance of the Dragonborn, and what events transpire because of that. So, here we go. Alright, so what is this going to be? Well, this is going to be a modded playthrough. The introduction you'll be seeing here in a few moments isn't modded, just because I'm still working on which ones I'm going to be using. This is going to be, well, really a character study, sort of a story time. I hope to turn it into a bi-weekly update or a weekly update, depending on how much time I have. Mainly as something to do I think it messed up. I'm outside the cart. So is everybody, in fact. Can I move? No, I can't. Okay. Anyway, this is going to be something that I do for fun. Really, that's it. I'm currently looking for a job still, and this is just something that I wanted to do that would be fun. Keep myself busy. So, as we're sitting here, about to board the cart here, because we've all been arrested by Imperial soldiers, and then we're going to be taken to Helgen. I'll briefly talk about my character a bit. She is... how would you describe my character? I'm gonna leave the name reveal up until my first actual episode. But my character is a big believer in justice. She has a very, very strong sense of morale, a very strong sense of what is right and wrong, and is pretty dead set in her beliefs. Not that she doesn't change her beliefs at all, especially when confronted with alternative information, new information, new perspectives, and new facts. She's willing to change her opinion. But as far as what she considers right and wrong, she's pretty dead set in it. So, for example, she's not a fan of Ulfric Stormcloak. Not because she believes that the Thalmor are right, or that the Imperial Army is going about it the wrong way, but she doesn't like what Ulfric stands for. He is Skyrim for the Nords and Aldling for the Nords. He dislikes other races, other cultures. A lot of the people who live in his city dislike people of other cultures. For example, throughout Skyrim, the Khajiit are not allowed into the cities. Neither are Red Guards or Alikuri warriors, for example. Some of it I can understand, but at the same time, I believe that there is an element of bigotry there. And she dislikes that. Hates it, in fact. So she is not a fan of Ulfric Stormcloak. She is not exactly a fan of the Thalmor either. Although she does understand why the Altmer disliked the human worship of Sacroceptum and Talos. She has done a lot of history, or she has done a lot of research, and knows a lot about history and the events that transpired during that time. And while she doesn't necessarily agree that the Thalmor persecute everyone who believes in Talos, she understands why they don't believe, and sometimes what's the word I'm looking for? Hate. I think it's too weak of a word, but we'll go with hate. Talos and everything that he stands for and everything that he did, because it was extraordinarily violent. When he was trying to coerce, everyone who wasn't part of Skyrim or part of Cyrodiil into becoming part of the Empire. She understands that there are other belief systems out there, and that everyone should be allowed to believe as they wish. Gods are gods. She is also not highly religious either. She believes that the Aedra existed, but don't exist in the same sense as the Daedra currently exists. The Daedra are real, in a sense that she grew up in Orsinium on an Orc stronghold. So she has spoken with Malakath directly. She has seen his mortal projection. They're real. It is more real than the Aedra to her. Not necessarily because they're better, but they're more real. She thinks the Aedra are more revering the ancestors and what the ancestors stood for, the lessons that they taught, more than their actual beings. That might change throughout her adventures in Skyrim, however. But she's not a big believer in religion, and religion as a doctrine for actions or a motivator for war. Despite her moral upbringing and very strong sense of justice, she is afraid of a lot of things. She's afraid of failure. She's afraid of not being good enough, not being able to live up to what people expect of her. She's afraid of change, of things constantly changing and constantly adapting to new events. Not that she dislikes innovation in, say, magic or technology or anything like that, but she dislikes change in her personal life. Moving to a new area, leaving friends behind, leaving family behind, her way of life being uprooted and changed constantly. She dislikes it, she fears it, even though it's happened to her many, many, many times. She is terrified of spiders, for example. I bring that up because there will be many an escapade in Skyrim that involve creepy crawlies, which are going to be a challenge. She is not exactly afraid of people, but she's afraid of what people might do. So, briefly going into her backstory, she was born on a farm in the Clovian Highlands in Syria. She lived there until she was about 4. Unfortunately, fighting between the Aldemir Dominion and the Hammerfell army crossed over into the Colobian Highlands and burnt the farm to the ground. She survived by hiding in a rain barrel, of all things. And she was taken back to Hammerfell and then sold into slavery. She lived just a few weeks as a slave before she was sold to an orc stronghold. Because she was 4, there was very little she could do. It's a miracle she survived, because a child slave that young is worth very little. But she was purchased by an orc chieftain, and she was brought up to be raised as a child of the orcs, of the Orcimer. She was treated initially as an orc child. They had painted her face. They affixed small rocks to her face to help her blend in. Not necessarily because she would get teased, but to show that even though she is not an orc, that she is a part of their family. It didn't last long, of course. She occasionally wears war paint, but more as a habit than a desire. She was not a good fighter. She was not a warrior. And of course, the orcs are a warrior society. So this was unique. She became the apprentice of the wise woman, the mother of the chief of the stronghold she was in. And she learned a lot about alchemy and potion making and the fundamentals of magic, although she herself is terrible at it. She also loved stories, and through the years collected stories from the various different strongholds that she had been allowed to visit. She had recorded a lot of history and became known sort of through word of mouth as a historian, especially for orc lineages and stories and culture. She wrote everything down and kept record of it. It's something the orcs tend not to do, because the orcs believe that you are responsible for remembering your own history and your own stories. She, however, was not an orc, and therefore was considered... She should remember, but it is understandable that she couldn't because she wasn't an orc. So it was permitted that she read everything down. And in a way, the rest of the strongholds that she had attended and wrote histories about benefited from that, because there was a lot that had been forgotten. She requested a meeting with Malakath, and presented him with this idea of writing things down and of being, active in history and of being more accepting of innovations made by other cultures. And Prologue actually expressed his love of reading before he became Malakath, and spoke to her as both Malakath and what remained of her memory. And because they both shared this love of knowledge and this love of reading and history, he granted her chieftain a bountiful hunt and bountiful harvest that allowed them to make enough gold to send her to college. They sent her to a college in High Rock, a mid-tier college, one that was more accepting of other races than just Breton. She attended school for many, many, many years, although she was still not very apt at magic. One of her professors was insistent that because she was Breton, that she be good at magic. She wasn't. No matter how hard he pushed her, she wasn't. She failed miserably, causing damage to both property, herself, and her classmates. So, eventually, her stress of failing, her fear of failing, and disappointing those who were in charge of her, disappointing her adoptive father, adoptive family, disappointing Malakath. She pushed herself too hard, and it backfired. She caused a spell to explode and completely blow apart her face. Burned pretty bad. Most of it was healed on site by the professors, but after such a failure, she decided to sell what possessions she had, do what she could to earn the money to travel to the Mages Guild in Cyrodiil. They couldn't help her because there were a lot of regulations, and getting into the Mages Guild, you have to produce some sort of skill and receive recommendations from the various guilds that are in and around Cyrodiil. She could not do that. A lot of bureaucratic red tape. So, what ended up happening is she decided, okay, fine, there's one more place I can go. The College of Winterhold in Skyrim. And she booked passage. She took a cart to Burma and collected all the supplies she would need and started going northeast. Towards, not quite Riften, just to the west. West of Riften. Crossing the border, attempting to walk all the way to Winterhold, where she was eventually mixed up in an altercation with the Stormcloak soldiers and the Imperial Army. And when the cart decides to move and we all decide to board, we will see what her adventures in Skyrim are like.